just imagine that when you wake up in the morning, there are no birds. What would you miss? What would you miss? If you woke up in the morning and there are no birds, what would you miss? Well, some of you might miss fried chicken and scrambled eggs. Some of you might miss, the song and chatter of birds in your yard. Some of you might miss, this brings back memories, we'll talk about that in a minute. Some of you might miss the flash of color on a hummingbird's throat. Well, I would miss the hooting of a great horned owl right before the sun rises, or seeing a hawk soar up in the blue sky, the Arizona blue sky. I just love raptors. And from the middle of October until the middle of April, I live for Fridays when I get to go to the Desert Museum and talk about the birds. I just love it. I'm a narrator at Raptor Free Flight. But the important thing about birds is that they're everywhere, and they connect us to nature and to the wild, or at least some of us a whole lot. And for me, watching raptors, learning about raptors, and talking about raptors to people like you and people at the museum has made me the person I am today. And I kind of like that person now. That's pretty cool. So to start with, what I'd like to do is talk to you about my favorite bird, which is also my favorite species of birds, and it is a raptor. And then I'll talk a little bit about me and my relationship with that bird. That bird's name is Ty. He's 16 years old, and he's a barn owl. His name means Tyto alba, which is the scientific name for barn owl. But barn owls are really cool looking little critters. Does anybody here know what a barn owl looks like? Oh, some of you do, but some of you don't. So let me try to describe. Ty is about 1 foot tall. He's got really long, sparsely feathered legs. He weighs almost a pound. In fact, his feathers weigh more than his bones do. That's pretty cool, isn't it? And his face, his chest, and his belly are white, just as white as can be, with maybe a few little black spots on the underside of his wing. The interesting thing about his face is there's a little brown ruff that it completely encircles his face, and it's made out of feathers, of course, and each one of those little feathers is shaped like a lollipop, if you can imagine. So all the feathers, the white feathers on his face, and those little lollipop heart-shaped discs around his face are channeling sound to his ears. And they put barn owls in completely dark rooms with no light at all, and just by using that hearing that those feathers are moving to his ears, he can catch a mice without seeing it. 95% of the time, 95% of the time, I think barn owls are the most beautiful mouse traps you'll ever see. The other cool thing is if you look at his back, from the top of his head where that ruff is, all the way down his back, and the back of his wings, they're kind of toasted marshmallow color with a wash of gray, and it looks like somebody took a handful of black and white sequins and threw them on his back. And if he's sitting on a perch and his wings are folded, his wings are longer than his little square tail. I think he's a gorgeous bird. Have you got kind of a mental image of what he might look like? Well, Ty is 16 years old, and he's been at Raptor Free Flight longer than I have. And so I've heard some stories about Ty when he first started that I want to talk to you about. When Ty first started in the Raptor Free Flight demonstration, he did not fly in. He walked in, which is pretty funny. And he was also terrified of baby scooters or baby buggies. So to get him over that, they would park a baby buggy within his sight, but not too close to him, and then they'd move it a little bit closer, and then they'd wait until he quit freaking out, and move it a little bit closer, and over a couple of months, they finally got that baby buggy into his enclosure, and it was like, oh yeah, okay, no big deal. Well, about the time I started working with Raptor Free Flight, he was the rock star. You know, when some of you have been to Raptor Free Flight, you know that they put pieces of meat on different perches for the birds to fly to, and they flip their fingers to call them over, or they wave their hands to get the bird to come to certain spots in the demonstration area. Well, Ty was such a rock star, they would put bait out for him, and then everybody would sit down, and he would do the whole demo by himself, which is really cool. He is the rock star. Well, currently he's retired because he's 16, he has cataracts, but everybody loves him, and they just fight to, I want to feed Ty his mice today. And when you feed him, he goes gulp, 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 and he gets them kind of settled, but while he's doing that, the mouse tail's hanging out. And then they get to pet him. We call it petting, but I think he calls it pruning. So he's really a cool little bird. Well, the very first bird that I got to narrate about was Ty. And it was a cold day. Oh my God, I had on a hat, gloves, long johns, boots, a scarf, and one of these, which you kind of hold like a microphone, like an ice cream cone, I'll say. And I was so nervous and so scared, I was shaking like a leaf, I had to prop my arms against my body and hang on. I think I said about 5 things about Ty. He was about 45 seconds, and then he took off. He was great, but I survived. And then about the time when he was really being the movie star, we had some chances to do some special things. So I got to talk about Ty at night, on Saturday nights, in an auditorium, and Carolyn was there. And what we did, and I'm going to tell you the story real fast. Make sure I keep going right. Imagine that you're out taking a walk in the desert, and you're having such a great time, you just keep walking and looking and stuff, and then all of a sudden you realize it's getting dark. Not only is it getting dark, it's getting cloudy, and it might rain, and you don't have a flashlight, and you don't have your poncho, and it's really getting dark. But up ahead, you see this little old ramshackled shed. And about this time, the lights in the auditorium start going down, just to add to the drama. And then you walk into that little shed, and while you're standing there, kind of getting yourself organized, you hear a shriek. It sounds like a banshee. And if you're like me, the hair on the back of your neck stands up, you get goosebumps, your knees start knocking, and you start looking around, and we actually had a recording of the shriek. You start looking around, and then the lights come up, and there's Carolyn holding Ty on her glove. And so we talked about the ghost owl. So that was pretty cool about Ty. But let me tell you, learning to be a narrator and talking about those birds when they fly away and when they don't do things they're supposed to do, you got to have a lot of information. So I studied long and hard and had a lot of help along the way. But it was really it is a wonderful, wonderful experience. But you know, many of those birds and nature, we're losing it. It's in peril. So what are we going to do about that? Well, about 50 years ago, there was a conservationist, a naturalist from Senegal, and he was giving a speech in Africa, and he said, in the end, we will only conserve what we love, we only love what we understand, and we only understand what we are taught. That's my mission.